The Trump administration has released a new regulation that could allow the indefinite detention of migrant families and children who enter the United States illegally. RT's Brigida Santos joins me now to talk about this story. Brigida, if approved, the new rule is going to replace the 1997 Flores settlement. For those who don't know who that is, what that is, the Flores Agreement. Talk about it, and let's talk about how that Flores Agreement is now so different.
Since 1997, the Flores settlement has protected migrant children by guaranteeing that they be placed with a relative or close friend as soon as possible, or that they're detained no more than 20 days in an unlicensed facility. The rule applies to unaccompanied minors as well as those who enter the United States with a guardian. Last year, the Trump administration justified its controversial family separation policy by claiming that the Flores Agreement would not let the government detain families together long enough to resolve adults' legal cases. But other administrations have typically released families until their cases were heard months or years later in some cases. The new regulation is basically changing that.
Well, it doesn't take rocket scientists to understand this. Indefinite detention is a violation of due process and equal protection unless, under the Constitution, unless there's something special there like the Patriot Act that cut right through all of our constitutional rights. How likely is this rule to be approved from a constitutional standpoint? I see all kinds of flaws. What is your take on that?
Well, the new regulation is scheduled to take effect on October 22nd, but only if it's approved by the federal judge who first approved the Flores settlement back in 1997. Last year, she denied a similar request, so it's very unlikely that she's going to change her mind this time. Now, even if she does approve it, the rule will still likely face many legal battles. In fact, at least 19 states have already filed a federal lawsuit challenging this rule, and that suit is led by California and Massachusetts. California, of course, has the largest migrant population in the country and is a sanctuary state.
Yeah, I don't see, constitutionally, I think this is dead on arrival. Of course, you understand the way they got around that with places like Guantanamo and all is to say, look, we have the Patriot Act, all these constitutional rights are not going to be applicable. That is simply not the case in this particular situation. So I don't see that going anywhere. What are California's sanctuary laws, and how has the Trump administration responded to state immigration policies? And when we discuss the sanctuary laws, California has said, we regard this differently. We want to have that state autonomy to be able to do what we want to do where it comes to immigration. Give me your take on all that, would you please?
Yeah, California's sanctuary bill prohibits cooperation between local or state officials and federal immigration enforcement. Now, the Trump administration has responded by threatening to withhold funds, federal funds, from sanctuary cities and has been incredibly hostile to states that try to govern themselves on immigration, which is incredibly ironic for the Republicans who usually are for more states' rights. Now, the acting director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services says that the new regulation establishes a supremacy clause that wipes out state licensing challenges for federal authorities who try to house migrant children. Take a listen to what else he had to say.
The licensing scheme that's established by the Flores regulation will make it consistent across the country and take that uncertainty out. It also, by the way, takes this out as a weapon for states that are effectively sanctuary states and would use this regulatory opportunity as a way to effectively shut down what ICE needs to do in this space.
Now, the 19-state lawsuit argues that this new policy interferes with states' rights to set their own licensing requirements to ensure the health, welfare, and safety of migrant children. While the lower federal courts are expected to give the states a temporary win, some legal experts say that the president does have broad power over immigration policy, unless they can prove discrimination. So if this lawsuit does make its way to the Supreme Court, it could fail.
Okay, well, so the arguments here is what we see very often in a constitutional argument is what we call police powers of the federal government. Federal government says we have a direct responsibility where it comes health, safety, and welfare to protect the citizens of the United States. That the citizens of the United States would then trump the non-citizens of the United States. On the other side of it, the states are saying, well, we have some autonomy in how that's determined. And the real fight's going to come. I will tell you this, Trump will win on holding back funds from those sanctuary states. I can very well see that happening. At least we're talking narrowly about sanctuary states right now, sanctuary areas right now. He can win with that. And when you load up that police power versus some other standard of power that a state might want to try to enforce, police power is pretty strong. And so that's why you heard, that statement just by that we just heard. But that's going to be the fight. That's going to be the constitutional fight. How strong are police powers where it comes to the federal government being able to say, you can do this and you can do this, but you can't do this because we believe it affects health, safety, and welfare of the American citizenry. Brigida, thank you for joining me, okay? Every year, 1 million hernia surgeries are performed in the United States. Unfortunately, some mesh implants that are used in these surgeries have caused complications, including infection and organ damage that led to surgeries to correct those problems. If this has happened to you, learn more about the hernia mesh lawsuit by going online to hernia.law or call us for a free consultation about your legal rights.